Welcome to the Plant Trainers Podcast, where we're helping people improve their quality of life through nutrition and fitness. And now, your hosts, nutrition and wellness coaches, international speakers, Adam and Shoshana Chaim.
Hey, I'm Adam Chaim.
And I'm Shoshana Chaim, and we are
Propelled by Plants. Today we bring to you episode 244, Lupus, Celiac Disease, and Cosmetics with Mandi Dawson.
In today's episode of the Plant Trainers Podcast, we talk with Mandi Dawson about lupus, celiac disease, and cosmetics. She's made many changes in her life due to her celiac and lupus diagnoses. She went from a junkier vegan diet to a more healthy plant-based vegan diet to help battle her health issues. Today she tells us a bit of her story and lets us know about the creams, soaps, and makeup that we might be putting on our bodies, and she shares the effects that they have on us and how we can make more compassionate choices for animals, the world, and ourselves. And yes, men, this is for you too, so don't go anywhere. Share this with anyone in your life who is not using clean vegan cosmetics.
Mandi Dawson is a Canadian-British makeup artist and a total beauty lover. She was a child model from the age of 1 and was exposed to makeup from a very early age. She's now a beauty blogger at The Beauty Edition. Immediately after becoming vegan, Mandi started to change her focus and bring more attention to a cruelty-free and vegan beauty lifestyle.
Podcasting is like the street performing of radio. Street performers make up their acts, plan, prepare, and get all dressed up. Podcasters seduce guests into coming onto the show, prepare the show, and get the best recording gadgets. Street performers lure their audience in with a great opening act. Podcasters are constantly finding unique ways to let others know what's going on. Street performers have foot traffic to lure in, and podcasters have to work hard to get themselves out there. Street performers come back day after day because they love the way that people look when they laugh and are entertained. Podcasters come back week after week because they're passionate about their message and are humbled by how many people they help. Every now and again, you come across a performance that excites you, that you enjoy, that you can relate to, and then you throw a couple of bucks in the pot. Well, that pot for podcasters is called Patreon. It's a unique way that listeners can show their appreciation and help cover some of the hosting costs and hours of hard work that it takes to put shows out like this. So if you're feeling like this show lights you up, helps you, informs you, or maybe entertains you, we would be grateful for your donation at patreon.com/planttrainers. Even $1 helps us cover costs and ramp up our game. Thank you to those who already contribute and to those who will.
And now for a moment of gratitude.
As Canadian parents, it's kind of important to us that our children learn to skate. They don't need to be Olympic skaters or very crazy hockey players or anything like that. But for us, it's important that they just have the skill and the confidence to be on the ice. And they've been going through some skating lessons, which have had its ups and downs, quite literally. I'm just really happy that the children are taking part in that and developing their skills.
I'm grateful that it's getting brighter earlier. The sun is shining at an earlier hour. The days are getting longer. It's getting warmer. It's nice to be able to get back outside. And I'm just grateful for the winter season to be coming to an end.
Yes. Mandi Dawson, thank you so much for being on the Plant Trainers Podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
We're excited to talk about cosmetics today, but before you men press the skip button or erase this podcast, we're not necessarily talking about beauty cosmetics and making ourselves look wonderful. We're talking about our health and making ourselves feel wonderful. And what Mandi's going to do today, we're going to talk about our story. We're going to talk about how the cosmetics that we put on our body, that we put in around our body, on our hair, how that affects our health. And it's really important whether you use hand cream, whether you use toothpaste, whether you have children, a wife, a husband. It's really important for everybody to hear that today. So before we do get into that, we wanted to know if you have a moment of gratitude to share with us and our listeners.
Actually, I would just like to thank Dr. G, Dr. Goldner. She's a great plant-based doctor that's reversed lupus, and I think she's just amazing and has brought me so many wonderful people into my life as well.
We want to hear more about your story with lupus and celiac disease, but I wanted to tell people that Dr. Goldner was actually on the Plant Trainers podcast, episode number 167. So if you go to planttrainers.com/167, you'll be able to hear that whole episode on Goodbye Lupus. And we hope that if there is someone with lupus in your family and you haven't found her yet, that you definitely will find her. Mandi, how did you find out that you had lupus?
It was sort of one of those moments where you don't believe that you have it. When I was in Mexico for my husband's sister's wedding, I started getting a lot sicker. And I just said, maybe it's the celiac disease because you don't really know everything you're eating. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And then the stereotypical butterfly-shaped rash appeared across my entire face. And I didn't think anything of it. At first, I just thought, I just got too much sun. But then when I came back, it happened again. And this is Canada, so.
And were you getting the rash on your legs from the sun as well and all of those other typical?
Yeah, for that part, it was a bit harder for me to diagnose because I am British. So we generally burn badly anyway.
Right.
So I'm very fair skinned. So it's sort of something I've always dealt with. But for now, it was way worse than it normally is.
And you were already plant-based when you got the lupus diagnosis?
Yeah.
And would you say that you were more vegan or you were more whole food plant-based?
I would say I was more vegan. I was adopting a lot of the plant-based diet, but I was just going in that direction, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. So what are some of the big differences that you've seen since you started using Dr. Goldner's protocol?
Well, first and foremost is I had been hypoglycemic since I was about 11. That was completely gone. My blood sugar is perfect. My blood pressure went from stage 3 hypertension to being 120/80, which for someone with lupus is pretty ideal. And my ANA counts are dropping. So what she says is working. And, at first I was like, it's too good to be true. But just watching it, and I'm in her smoothie shred group, and just watching so many people's lives completely change.
How has your life changed?
Well, I mean, when you get diagnosed with a lot of autoimmunes, the first thing they tell you is you're not going to live a long life. You're not going to be able to have children, things like that with certain autoimmune diseases. And this sort of gives you renewed hope, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do understand. We've been there, and having that renewed hope is definitely a big thing. And what do you find other people are going through? How are their lives changing? Who are you finding in this group?
Within the group, it's just people with every autoimmune disease you can think of, from rheumatoid arthritis to Hashimoto's, and they're all being able to cut out crazy amounts of medications. Some of them have come off treatment completely, and other people haven't been to see their rheumatologists in months because they don't need to. So, I mean, that's got to be pretty life-changing, because if you're in a situation where you're sort of a slave to the medical aspect, like you can't go anywhere without your medications, you can't do this, you can't do that, right? So it completely changes your freedom, really.
Are you working with a doctor here in Canada as well? Are they following your progress, or are you just working with her?
Well, the doctor I was working with here, I've now stopped working with because he was literally, every treatment he tried was actually making me sicker, not better. And when he didn't even read my chart and gave me Gravol, which caused me to have a major allergic reaction because I've always been allergic to Gravol, it kind of put me in a bad place because I'm like, you didn't read my chart. So how can you sort of advise me on what's good for me? Because a lot of people think like autoimmunes are like this cookie cutter system, and it's not a one size fits all with everybody.
So when you talk about your sugars being level and your blood pressure, are you monitoring that with a doctor now, or is that at-home kits or in the pharmacy kind of thing?
Well, when you're hypoglycemic, you're pre-diabetic. You're not fully diabetic. So I was just getting blood tests monthly with the doctor. It wasn't like an everyday sort of thing. But I've been 4 months now, and my blood results have been clean every time. So there's really no use to continue. But I thought that it was my genetics, right? My grandmother had it. My uncles have it. Even my little cousins have it. So I just thought it's genetics, but you can reverse your genetics.
And we know we've talked about that plenty on the show before. And I talk about genetics being like a dimmer switch. You could walk into a room and you could turn it on, you could turn it off, or you could find somewhere in the middle. And if we can keep ourselves from reaching that on switch and just, keep those genes down, the ones that we don't want to be ruling our life, then if we make the right changes in life, if we follow certain food protocol, if we make good changes to have a better quality of life, then for most, that is usually possible. So your vegan journey started with a diagnosis of celiac disease.
Yeah, that was about a year ago now.
And what other changes have happened in your life since you decided to become vegan?
In the beginning, it was a lot of dealing with family issues, but it's also been great because I've been able to really reach a whole new demographic of people. And the vegan community is so supportive, I find, here in Toronto, that everybody sort of builds each other up. And having that support while going through these type of things, your support system is not solid. It's going to be really hard on you. Having that support system and having people that just, want to see other people succeed, I think is a great tool.
So Mandi, you work in the beauty and cosmetics industry, and I'm wondering that since you became vegan, has that had an impact on your cosmetics and beauty company or industry?
Oh yeah, that's completely, it sort of flipped that on its head. I modeled when I was a young kid from one years old. So I used to model and do all those things. So I sort of grew up with the makeup industry. And then when I started becoming more involved in doing the makeup myself, obviously, you go for the big brands that are known by makeup artists like Makeup Forever and MAC, and so on. But when I went vegan because of the celiac disease, it was also, I had to look at what I was putting on my skin. Did it have gluten? Did it have certain chemicals like dimethicone and things like that are triggering for these type of problems? So I had to completely change everything. And sort of once you go down the rabbit hole of finding out where everything comes from, it's shocking. Like I honestly didn't even understand, and being in the industry myself, I didn't even understand how bad it was.
I would think that for the regular average consumer going to buy makeup or cosmetics, I mean, what would they even be looking for to know if things are vegan, or does it really matter? Like how important is that?
It's hugely important, especially when you have autoimmune diseases that are inflammatory based. A lot of people have more sensitive skin because of it. But sort of the big ones you're going to be looking for, I call them the Big 10, is carmine is a huge one, which is basic.
That's the ladybug.
Yeah, it's crushed. And then you've got things like gelatin, lanolin, which I don't know if you know what that is, but it's
comes
sort
from
of
the sheep's fur.
Yeah, it's like the greasy buildup. And then I'm just naming off a few here. And then you've got collagen, which again is usually a fat, like a fibrous protein from animals. But the sad thing is that it's being sold to people as this wonder product. And there's actually no clinical evidence of that it even works. So that's another one. You can have things like
Wait a minute. Collagen is something that Dr. Oz even says that people are supposed to be taking. So how could that be bad? Like there's so many people out there that are promoting all these products that clearly have an impact on our environment, on the animals, on our personal selves. But so why are people pushing that stuff so much? Is it all about money?
Well, I think that we need to, for some people it's categorized, right? So for some people you don't want that stuff on your skin because you don't want the animals to be exploited to then, put it on your skin. And for some of these things, they're actually toxic to us, depending on whether we're a healthy body or we have illnesses or we're just a regular body. So there's different categories of why you wouldn't want to have it on you. Like, for example, we wouldn't want to use it for our health, but also if it was good for us, but it came from an animal, we would still choose not to use it.
Yeah, I mean, you can categorize it. What I'm talking about, collagen in the sense of topically, so on your skin. it does get sold as, this amazing plumping, wrinkle fighting agent. And I've looked and looked and looked, and I have not seen a single sort of non-funded by the industry study that shows that it does anything. Right. And these products can range up to $200-$300. Mm-hmm. Like, they're not cheap. And then you have things as well that I didn't even know that's in a lot of perfumes and stuff is estrogen, which is from horse's urine, if you believe it or not. But things like that, you don't even have any idea that would even be in a product like that. You don't even think about it,
Okay, so let's recap. Which ones do we have so far?
We've got carmine, gelatin, and I told you about collagen. I'm just sort of getting some of the bigger ones that you see more often. You've got like tallow as well, which is boiled animal fat.
And what's that used in typically?
Eyeshadows and sort of concealers, things like that. Anything where they're trying to sort of with that creamier texture or a straight cream, it's used as a binding agent a lot of times.
Right.
So, the problem is the industry is very difficult because some things that say they're cruelty-free are not, because there's this sort of game right now. A company can claim that they're cruelty-free, but still do third-party testing.
Right. So that's what I wanted to ask you. I wanted to really let people know. So you have this little bunny guy. It looks like a bunny hopping out of a cylinder container. And you see that on a lot of the products out there. So does that mean that it doesn't contain any animal products and it hasn't been tested on animals? Does that mean that it's vegan? What does that symbol mean?
That symbol is, if you're talking about the pink bunny, that would be PETA. So that means it's PETA certified as being cruelty-free.
Which means it's vegan and it's not being tested on animals?
Not necessarily, no.
So why would PETA approve that if it's being tested on animals?
Well, they do have different logos.
Okay.
So they have sort of the one will say cruelty-free, and sometimes it'll say cruelty-free and vegan. But the problem is that PETA is not, as far as cosmetics and what I've seen, they're not the main people that regulate the vegan side of cosmetics. They regulate the animal testing side. So you've got what is it? I think it's the Vegan Society that does the regulation. But, there's other things. And then you'll have the little bunny that looks like it has a circle going around it. And that's Leaping Bunny.
Okay, way too confusing for me. These ingredients that you listed are things that we would look at on the ingredients of the actual product. And we'd be looking for these pink bunny symbols on the packaging, I assume. But I'm a guy and I don't wear makeup, so I don't really care. Are there products that I should be using as a male and thinking about these things? I don't really generally use any products, to be honest.
Use hand soap, use shampoo, use body wash. You'll use shaving cream, sunscreen. So there are things that men would use on a daily basis. I guess they just don't consider it cosmetics. You put some hand cream on your hands just earlier.
Yeah, that's because my hands are super dry all of a sudden. But usually I don't. The only thing, and I don't use shaving cream. And I use toothpaste and I use shampoo, but I never put makeup on.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be makeup. It's in everything. You've probably seen the no parabens craze. That's in everything from cosmetics to shampoo, toothpaste, even your razors you have to be careful of. If you're buying Gillette or Venus or any of those type of products, those companies do test on animals.
Okay, let's enlighten people about the red bin. Do you want to do that?
And what are you referring to in the red bin?
Okay, so from my understanding is that there's a garbage collection of animals from the sides of roads and that has been collected. And then there are certain companies that will purchase them and use them in their products. True, false? Have you heard that before?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen complete definitive proof. So I don't want to say that it is happening, but it wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me either, as disgusting as it is. But at the same time, it probably goes through a process where they're filtering it and cleaning it first, kind of like the same way that happens with milk, how when cows are giving milk and they're infected and there's all kind of pus in the milk and they clean out the pus and then it becomes human grade and they still feed it to the population anyway. So that doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's not like they're picking it up off the side of the road and putting it straight into a machine or anything like that. But so if we walk into a regular pharmacy, right? Like our regular, not our holistic pharmacy, our regular pharmacy, what are some of the brands that can be trusted at this point in time? I know that things are always changing and you always need to change, but are there any mainstream companies that you really put your trust in when it comes to these different cosmetics that we're talking about?
There is a few, but what you have to understand is a lot of brands are not vegan, but they have vegan products. So they're not 100% vegan. So you do always have to read the labels. So, for men, you have Lush has some great products. My husband gets this Kalamazoo, and it's sort of like a face wash, shaving foam all in one. And that's where you can find some great men's vegan, and Jack Black as well tend to lean more towards having a greater deal of vegan products. You've got everything from, I put my trust mainly in Derma E and Andalou and the Green Beaver are my three sort of go-tos, because the Green Beaver being a Canadian company, I know a lot of the staff that are there, and they just have some of the cleanest ingredients and so many products that are so multi-purpose. So it's not just like Castile soap and things like that. So that you can take one of those bottles and make everything from face wash to floor cleaner with one product.
I do the same with I use the Dr. Bronner's for the Castile soap, and I find it so versatile. I make pump hand soap, foaming hand soap for the kids, and I use it as my face wash, just straight on. It's just an amazing product to be able to find a clean Castile company. Yeah. We're taking a pause to let you know this episode of the Plant Trainers podcast is sponsored by Health IQ. Health IQ uses science and data to secure low rates on life insurance for health-conscious people like runners, cyclists, triathletes, strength trainers, vegans, and more.
This is an amazing, innovative system. It offers lower rates to people as they take into account overall lifestyle and not just genetics. Because as we know from so many great episodes, we can control much of our genetics by the daily choices we make. Our environment speaks volumes.
Here's what we suggest. Go through your files and find out how much you're paying for life insurance right now. Then head over to Health IQ and just for fun and giggles, see how much your premium could be with Health IQ.
It'll ask you basic questions like your age, height, weight, and a bit about your health history too. But it also gives you the opportunity to tell them if you're vegan, what type of physical activities you take part in, and how often.
Then you get to take a fun quiz to make sure you're for real. It kind of gets your competitive juices flowing.
And if you do have a competitive side, then you'll for sure want to win by saving up to 33% in your life insurance by submitting actual data from your recent race results, or you could even take screenshots from apps like Strava or Runkeeper.
To see if you qualify, get your free quote today at healthiq.com/planttrainers or mention the promo code planttrainers when you talk to a Health IQ agent. And now back to the show.
It's also my go-to now for cleaning any makeup brushes because it's just way better at everything that I've used it for. It basically can clean anything in half the time of the sort of more toxic alcohol-filled cleansers that I used previously. So, and the great thing about that is most people, when I try it on them, they have no reaction, whereas certain brush cleaners and things like that can cause serious reactions.
Okay, so talk to us. I wanted to go back to that after, but we'll just talk about it because we're talking about it now. But why is it important for people who do use brushes, whether it's shaving brushes or blush brushes or eyebrow painter honors, whatever it is that we're using? You could tell that I'm very versed in the makeup industry.
Painter honors.
We got an email in our inbox or a message in our inbox the other day saying, what did that person say, that I'm the most...
I don't know, but it wasn't painter honors.
No, she said that I'm the most... What's the word when you could say good things?
You say good things.
She's like, this is what she said. She said, I'm the most articulate in podcasting, and today I can't get my words out.
But
so
you got painter honors.
But I got painter honors. So when you want to put on your eyebrow painter honors or your blush brushes or what have you, why is it important to wash them and not just throw them back in the bag time after time after time?
Well, for one, if you're using any sort of cream products, you have the possibility of bacteria buildup. There's bacteria on your face, just it is what it is. And if you say you have a slight infection that you don't know about or anything like that, and you're dipping straight into the makeup and then back, you are transferring that into your makeup, and it can build over time because powders don't harbor bacteria, but creams do. So any sort of your cream products, you don't want to sort of go straight in there with a brush and do things like that. And also, if you're not cleaning your brushes properly, bacteria builds up in them. And I've heard of everything from people getting flesh-eating disease to staph infections.
So what is the best way to clean your brushes?
I think if, obviously not myself included, given my profession, but if you're a regular sort of user and you use it, daily or so, I would say you could do it maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks. And then, like I said, you can get the cast-iron soap and just put a few drops on, sort of like they have these pads to clean, and you can just swish it around and basically wash the water off and leave it to dry, and you're good. It's not a really big in-depth process, but it's really important to, especially if guys use those, the face foaming for the shave things. God, now I can't get my words out.
It's contagious.
The face brushes for the lathering, I've heard of horror stories of men getting serious skin problems and infections from those because they're a bit coarser as well than a makeup brush. They're actually getting in there more.
And also, if you nick yourself as you're cutting and you've already got that bacteria into the shaving cream and then that goes into the cut, then you're inserting it into your body, right? So chances of you getting sick. So for those women who are not crazy into makeup like I am, maybe a little bit more athletic during the week and go out on the weekend and like to dress up. So for me, my regular routine, and sorry for you men out there, is just I love eyeliner. I love mascara, and sometimes I'll stick my finger in my eyeshadow and I'll just brush my finger across my eye.
With your dirty finger?
Well, no, my finger's clean because I just use cast-iron soap to wash my face. So how much trouble am I in? And then on the weekend, if I'm going out, then I'll use my brushes and I'll kind of make a little bit fancier eyes and I'll dip in a couple of times here and there and stuff like that. So I've dealt with acne problems in the past. When I went plant-based, it completely cleared up. And then as I hit some other anxiety and PTSD in my life, it kind of came back a little bit, and then I've got it under control again. So do you think that I'm having a harder time keeping it under control because of my makeup routine?
I would say partly. Your normal routine, I don't think would be a huge issue, but I would say that you do want to look for your mascaras and your eyeliners. Is your eyeliner a pencil or a liquid? That is also a big deal.
So on a weekend, I'll use a liquid, but day to day, I'll use a pencil.
So a pencil, you should be getting a bottle with like rubbing alcohol or something like that in it. Mm-hmm. And you just spritz the top after you've used it, and it just sort of sterilizes everything. And for liquids, you don't really have that. So what I would normally see with people is to make sure you're changing it out often. A lot of people will keep a mascara for way longer than they should. And that can become problematic because the formula starts to break down and change over time because of the oxygen that's getting into the physical products. And again, you have the bacteria building up because you're using it on your eye and putting it back into the tube, right? So
how often should we be changing that if we're just daily users?
For a daily user, I would say personally, I wouldn't keep them for any longer than 6 months.
Okay, fair enough. And I also wanted to go back before, and there are men who wear mascara and who wear eyeliner on a regular basis and other makeup products too. So I just wanted to go back and kind of say that although it is mostly women who are listening to this who will get a little bit out of this part, there are lots of men out there who do wear makeup on a regular basis as well. So I just wanted to put that out there.
So the only brush that I use is my toothbrush. And of course, you talked about bacteria on the brushes before. There's got to be a ton of bacteria on a toothbrush, and everybody uses a toothbrush. So how is there a way to clean that brush properly so the bacteria doesn't build up on those?
There's not a great way to do it for a toothbrush, but the biggest problem is a lot of us don't switch out our toothbrushes as often as you should. You should be switching them out sort of every 2 to 3 months. You should get rid of it and get a new one. Or if you have the electric version, get a new head for it. And I always make sure that I turn the water on like the hottest setting after I'm done and sort of just let it sit for a few seconds just to make sure, because sometimes, I don't know if you've noticed, but the toothpaste can get down to the bottom and just sit there. So that's what I do. But the toothbrushes, there's not a really great way to clean them because you're using it twice a day. I would just make sure you're switching it out regularly.
It's your mouth, people. I mean, if there's anywhere to start taking care of yourself, you got to start in your mouth. You've got to be brushing. And it's funny because I always try to be a really good flosser, and I'll let you all know my little dirty secrets is that I don't floss as often as I used to. Yeah, when I have a kale or a seed stuck in my teeth and I just can't get it out, I'll go and floss. But I always go to the dentist and they're always like, oh, good, you've been flossing. And I'm like, yeah, no, I haven't. So I'm not giving permission just because they eat a whole food plant-based diet that they don't have to floss. But I know that since I've started eating this way, my dentist is usually a lot happier with my overall oral hygiene when I'm not even trying as hard as I used to beforehand. So there's a lot to be said about your diet and your oral hygiene as well. But we've really got to start taking care of our mouths because we're constantly swallowing our saliva and the bacteria that's in our mouth all day long.
Yeah.
So if I start to see some black spots on my toothbrush, is it time to change it out?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, think. Do you have that? I'm going upstairs to check after.
I don't think I do.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Even when the bristles start to get misshapen,
faded,
I change it out then too. It's just because it's not doing your teeth any benefit if it's not working.
So what's your experience with toothpaste? Are you a toothpaste person? Are you a clean toothpaste person? Are you just a baking soda kind of girl?
I am a toothpaste person for sure, but I also do oil pulling, and that is a really great way to detoxify your mouth. I know it sounds very odd, but you just sort of put a tablespoon or so of coconut oil in your mouth and swish it around for about 10 to 15 minutes and then go brush your teeth as normal. So I only do that in the morning.
That's something that we've talked about with other people on the podcast before. I believe Julie Danilak or Joy McCarthy. And I've actually watched some of Dr. Greger's videos, which shows that if you're oil pulling or if you're water pulling, which is doing the exact same thing with water, that there really isn't much of a difference. And it's actually the act of slushing that is, or what do you call it? Swishing. The act of swishing that is actually cleaning your mouth and getting your mouth nice and clean. So if you're someone who wants to be avoiding oils, or if you're someone who has limited amount of funds and you don't want to be spending your money on amazing quality coconut oil to go ahead and do that, then you can definitely try it with water and see the differences. It's going to feel a little bit different because it's not going to leave all that oily in your mouth. But if you're someone who's trying to avoid oil for health reasons, that water is usually a really good alternative there as well. And that's something that I do. I swish with water after and before I brush so that I kind of get all the big stuff out. I don't have to let my toothbrush worry about that. And then I brush and then I swish again to get any of the leftovers that is kind of floating around my mouth, get that out as well.
Well, you're just
yeah,
so
or my husband, he hates the oil pulling. He can't do it. But he really likes the Desert Essence mouthwash.
Yeah.
And he loves using that. And
we use our toothpaste. It's great.
Yeah, he uses the mouthwash. We use the Green Beaver toothpaste just because it's the best one for both of us. Him and I have both struggled with sensitive teeth. And ever since we switched to that toothpaste, the sensitivity is gone.
That's very interesting. That's a good tip for our listeners. So let me ask you, what actionable tips do you have for people today if they want to become more conscious about the cosmetics in their home? Because if you go and redo everything at once, it's going to be overwhelming and it might not stick and it's going to be costly as well. So what are your tips there?
My tips is if you're going vegan or you're vegan, but you're trying to incorporate more cruelty-free, I would say use up the products you have and just sort of switch them in once those run out. You've already purchased it. There's no point in wasting your money. You've already gone through it. And then I would say that if you are having issues with your skin, journaling can be a really good way to figure things out. So if you have a skin flare up or you have a major breakout session, sort of writing down what you used can sometimes sort of, through the process of elimination, let you know what's causing your skin issues. So I would say also if you're using makeup tools or anything like that, please clean them. I've seen so many horror stories where I just go into people's houses to do their makeup and it's just cringe, makes me cringe. But
guess what I'm going to do tonight? Adam's going to walk into the bathroom and there's going to be makeup brushes everywhere. I have more makeup brushes than I need.
Yeah, there was actually a girl who had, the beauty blenders, and she used it for so long without switching it out. There was literal bugs inside.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely have makeup left over still from, I know I bought specifically the year after my daughter was born, and she'll be 8 in June. So yeah. Maybe it's time to dump that. And I don't even use it anyway. I use it so rarely, but it's still, just because I don't use it often, it still expires, right?
Yeah, the powders, you can sort of get away with going past the shelf date a little bit, but creams, I would not keep creams more than 12 months.
Right.
Because it starts to break down through when everything starts to oxidize, it really does change the formula, and it can cause sort of, you see your foundation separating and there's like oil on top and things like that. You're not going to get a good wear test out of that. But my biggest makeup tip for anyone is good skincare, because you can have the most expensive foundation in the world, but if you don't have good skincare, it's not going to make a difference.
And for men and women who are dipping their fingers into their night cream or day cream or moisturizing cream, is that included in that 12 months? I mean, usually it only lasts about 3 or 4 months anyway.
Yeah, that is sort of dependent upon the company. Each formula will have its own breakdown process. So when you look on the back, you'll probably see a little box with a number it'll say 6 or 12. And that's it telling you that that's the shelf life of the product.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, didn't realize that.
Yeah, in Canada now they are pretty much mandated to put basically 6 to 12 months, whatever their span is, on the products themselves now. So you can find the little box on the back.
Awesome. That's good to know, because I did not know what that little box was for. I wasn't sure about the bunny and I didn't know what the box was. So it's really great to get that information. And I think that our listeners have some really good tips and insight on if they want to take their health to the next level and start to think about things outside of the kitchen and things that they're putting on their skin and how it can affect their health and how it affects the economy, the animals, the planet, and all of that. Making good choices for yourself in that way is definitely something to consider. And you've given us a lot of good information on where to start today.
Thanks. And yeah, another point I just wanted to make about cruelty-free companies is that you really want to watch the parent company as well. There's a bit of a debate with vegans on whether you can support it with a parent company or not. And what I mean by that is you have, say, a cosmetics company that's cruelty-free, but they're owned by L'Oreal, which does major testing. So that's a decision you're going to have to make individually. Me personally, I still buy from those brands because I believe that corporations don't care where they're getting their money from. So if you show a demand for vegan products, they will in turn gear their products more towards the vegan side. If, something's not making money and the vegan side is, all they, sort of care about is the money. So it's good to show more demand.
Yeah.
And I think that we're seeing that a lot with the food industry as well, where big meat companies are investing in plant-based proteins and stuff like that. And the milk products, you're seeing the big milk companies even investing and the farmers investing in plant-based milks.
Those companies aren't going to go away. So we've got to vote with our dollars. Yeah,
so that's very important. That's great information and great tips. Thank you so much, Mandi. Is there anywhere that you want people to go to get in touch with you if they want more information?
Yeah, you can find me at thebeautyedition.com, and it's spelled EDITION. And I'm Beauty Edition X on Instagram, so I do allow people to message me publicly. So if you have any questions or concerns specific, you can always reach me there or by email.
Great. Thank you so much for spending time with us today on the Plant Trainers podcast. You've given us a lot to think about, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for listening to this edition of the Plant Trainers Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or any other podcast listening platforms. We appreciate the feedback we receive from you. Every time we get a 5-star rating or review on iTunes from one of our fans, it ensures other people will find us too. Thanks to our patrons. To become a patron, visit www.patreon.com/planttrainers. Even supporting us with $1 really makes a difference. Connect and follow us on Instagram and Twitter @PlantTrainers. Like Plant Trainers on Facebook, join our newsletter, and check out our website at www.planttrainers.com for awesome plant-based recipes and a list of our services. Email your questions to info@planttrainers.com so we can answer them on our upcoming Facebook Lives. We hope we've inspired you today. Join us again next time, and have a healthy day.